And I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Obviously, we planned this venue because we kind of had in our minds of how many people would attend, but actually this is a great thing to be able to pack as many as we can so we can get all the information that you guys want, and we'll go over the purpose of the meeting here in a bit. I'm gonna go back to my slides to make sure I do not miss anything. So introduction, so you know who's here. And it's in case they're answering your questions, and so you know who it is. Jessica Rogers, our assistant city manager, is right here. Nathan Dietrich, our community development director, is back here. And Kelly Violet, economic development president, person. Kathy McWright with TxDOT. Ethan Beeson with TxDOT. And Kyle Bertrand, a consultant with the city, is here with Guna. And I am your city manager, David Escobar. So here's kind of the agenda of what we want to talk about. Bottom line is that tonight is all about giving you the background, the information, factual information about the project. And as you know, you're here for the reconstruction project from 249 of 2920 all the way to Willow Street, about Concordia High School area, in which that is the total reconstruction of that roadway. And of course, Catherine will go kind of the history of how we got to this point. But I'll tell you right now, there's nothing set in stone. We are still in negotiations to approve the contracts with TxDOT to be able to do it. The plans that you see out here are not set in concrete, literally. They are conceptual plans. These are the things that we are thinking based on the information and the studies that have happened. That's what we're looking at as these are the conceptual drawings. So wanted to get that right out front, that there's still a lot of work to be done with this project. So like I said, the project overview will happen, give you the background, some of the things that we've done to already implement some of those plans that happened early on, as far back as 2008 and 2015. And of course, I talked about the preliminary design concepts. Kyle will go into certain sections of those to kind of give you more detail about what we're looking at and what we're doing. Mr. Beeson with TxDOT is going to talk about some of the landscaping opportunities that there are with the project. And then the important part is the question and answer at the very end. As far as the rules for the meeting, we do ask that we want to go through all of the information first, and then afterwards, we're going to open it up to all for questions and comments. The idea there is to absolutely, there's going to be probably a lot of information to be given, and so a lot of your questions may be answered from that time. So we just have to hold off the questions until the end. With that, I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Thank you, David. So yes, I'm Catherine McWright with the Texas Department of Transportation. Can you hear me back there? No. No, you can't. You can't hear? Who can't hear me? Okay, I'll make my way down. So if we can go to the next slide.
Yes.
Next slide. There you go. I want to talk about the current project. The current project is 2920 from, as David said, basically Willow Street to BS 249. To reconstruct the 4-lane roadway with a raised median and key locations, provide additional drainage, signal improvements, and to improve the sidewalk, the pedestrian route. So that's the scope of the project. The construction cost is $28 million. 80% of that is being paid for through federal funds, and the state is putting up the 20% match for that, because I think 2920 is a state arterial. The city is doing the design So it's within their, it's in their scope to prepare the design for us, working with you. They're also going to have to invest in their own utilities. And then there's a statutory requirement that local governments have to contribute 10% for any right of way that is purchased. So that's a statutory requirement. Right now, the project is scheduled to get to construction in 2023. We have maybe a couple of seats over here if you want to sit down. And the project is scheduled to let in 2023. That could change. That could change based on our negotiations with the city and funding. So, and the construction time to do the reconstruction will be less than 2 years. The purpose of the project is to reduce crashes, to improve mobility, and to provide for safer pedestrian accommodations. Next slide. So, let me give you a little bit of the history of this. Back in 2007, the city of Tomball applied for a grant with the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Houston-Galveston area, which is Harris and the 7 surrounding counties. The agency that serves as your Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. Oh, thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah. I think I was doing better on my own. Hello? There you go. Is this better? Go ahead and turn it up a little bit more. Yeah, they say a lot more. Hello. Is this better? Okay, they say no.
You have to tilt the mic so you speak directly into the top of the mic. You have it held
Hello, can you hear me?
When you speak up like you were speaking up before, we could hear you much better through that.
Okay.
No. We can hear you better through the mic.
Oh, in the mic, you can hear me if I talk like this?
There you go.
Okay. So, the Metropolitan Planning Organization is your MPO for the Houston-Galveston region. That organization is called the Houston-Galveston Area Council, or HGAC. HGAC commissioned a consultant to perform the access management study on 2920 back in November 2007. The limits of that project, that study, the facility was FM 2920. The limits were from I-45 north, basically to US 290 over near the city of Waller. That's a 32-mile segment of roadway. So it's a very long roadway that traverses I-45, 249, and connects to US 290. So an interstate and a US highway. The purpose of the study was to identify access management treatments that reduce crashes, reduce congestion, and consider economic vitality and economic development. The deliverable in that study was to identify short, medium, and long-range improvement concepts that will improve safety, mobility, reduce motorist delay, reduce crash rates, enhance land use, and preserve long-term property value. It also said that it would provide for pedestrian connectivity as well as aesthetic and landscaping treatments in order to stimulate economic development. I will. So let's talk about what access management is. Access management is really kind of a toolbox of a variety of treatments that help us as transportation planners and engineers to manage access on our roadways. The official definition, according to the Transportation Research Board, is the systematic control of the location, spacing, design, and operation of driveways, median openings, interchanges, and street connections to a roadway. The purpose of access management is to provide vehicular access to land development, to properties, in a way that preserves safety and efficiency of the transportation system. Safe access is good for business. What's in the toolbox? I just listed a few treatments up there that we use frequently when we do access management. And we've implemented these access management studies and these treatments on a variety of roads throughout the region, the 8-county region that I talked to you about earlier. Probably some roadways that you've seen. Westheimer, also known as FA 1093. We did it from basically 610 to State Highway 6, 1960 State Highway 6. We've basically gone from 45 north along 1960 all the way around to State Highway 6 down to 45 south, and we've access managed the entire facility. And we've done FM 518. We recently did State Highway 105 through the city of Conroe. You may have seen it inside Loop 337. Why are we doing this? You get a lot of bang for the buck. We have reduced, in fact, we asked HGAC and they went back and did an evaluation of phase 1 implementation. So basically what we asked them to do is we've implemented on 3 facilities, 1960, Westheimer, and 518. Let's go back and look, did we actually achieve those objectives? Did we actually reduce crashes, improve mobility, and how was, the economic, what's the economic situation like now that we've implemented those? So Texas Transportation Institute through Texas A&M University actually did it. HGAC hired them, not the state. And Texas A&M went out and looked at the 3 facilities, and in every case, we reduced crashes, we improved mobility, and the sales tax receipts stayed the same or grew over that same amount of time. And so if you think about one of the most unpopular treatments, the raised median that we talk about up there, I know they're not popular. I mean, let's just say they're not. And they haven't been popular in any corridor that we've implemented that it's been in. But you know what has happened? Not one head-on collision. T-bone crashes have gone down dramatically. Okay, those are the 2 most severe type of crashes that happen when you have a roadway where you have 4 lanes of traffic and vehicles trying to cut across. So, safety is our #1 priority, and that's why we're doing these. There's empirical evidence at the federal level, as well as I just told you, we've also done an evaluation of the treatments that we've implemented and found that we were successful. Somebody has bells. Next slide. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what transportation planners and engineers think about, okay? And do give me a click. So we think of roads in terms of functionality, right? How do they function? What are they serving? At the lowest level, we have local streets. Those are streets that have driveways on them. You need to pull out very slowly. You probably put your trash cans on there on trash day. Your kids probably ride their big wheel or their bicycles on it. It's the neighborhood streets where we all pretty much live. Okay, and as you go up, you have everything all the way up to a freeway. Okay, and it's not appropriate to connect a local street to a freeway. Right, that wouldn't be appropriate. You wouldn't want cars coming at 75 miles an hour and then taking and then accessing your the street you live on. So the challenge that we have here is that 2920 is an arterial. You see where it is on the hierarchy? What happens is, as mobility needs go up, access to land use needs to come down. Right, you need to reduce access to individual businesses and homes because speeds are going up. As you go to freeways, speeds go up. Our engineers back at the office, those lanes out on the freeway are 12 feet. You know why? Not because your car is 12 feet, it's because human error. We need to give you enough room to maneuver, you know, and have a little sway and play with it, because speeds are going up and now it's getting dangerous, so we need to give you more space. 2920, however, through downtown Tomball is really functioning closer to a local road. You have businesses down there, and you have a great pedestrian realm with all the sidewalks in there. You have the depot over there, and then you have this area that's very vibrant for your community. And so our challenge is, I told you when we started, when we did this study, it was 30 miles long. It connects Interstate 45 to US 290, and yet right through Tomball, it's Main Street, right? It's your Main Street. So
I thought that's why medical center drive.
that is, so I talked earlier about the long range, the short, medium, and long. Those are long-term investments. And so, but we have short-term needs here, and we have some immediate needs that aren't gonna change in this quarter. So let me keep going here. So another way to look at it is land access increases. Your speeds on your road need to decrease. The lanes can get a little more narrow. Those narrow lanes also serve to slow vehicles down. One of the other treatments that we like to do to slow people down is to landscape them. Because then it's now a signature, it's a parkway, it's something prettier, and it's not just a runway of concrete for people to speed through. And so those are some of the treatments that we use as traffic calming measures. And again, the medians, we can landscape them and do other things to again make it an area where people want to slow down and be a little more calm when they're driving. Next slide. So again, talking about medians, raised medians. Again, I said I know they're very unpopular. And when we did them on 1960, they were unpopular. Everywhere we've done it, they are unpopular. Change is hard. It really is. But if you look at this, graphic right here, you can see that a full intersection has, and I'll tell you, it has 32 conflict points when you have an intersection. So everywhere where those lines are crossing, that's a conflict point, and that's a potential crash. When you do a raised median, and you restrict that cross access, you basically have 4 conflict points. So again, we need to provide mobility, we need to provide ways for people to get where they need to go, but we also want to provide it in the safest way possible. Medians, can you go back real quick? Real quick, medians also provide pedestrian refuge, so that if somebody wanted to cross mid-block, not walk all the way down to the signal, cross and then come all the way back up to the store they wanted. I'm on one side, I want to go to that store right there. If they chose to cut across the roadway, at least a raised median in the middle would provide the pedestrian refuge where they could stand and wait. So they're not having to make a decision about traffic moving both directions. They can worry about one traffic on one side, cut across, they can wait, and then when they can safely do so, they can cut across the other 4 lanes or other 2 lanes. Okay. So let's look at 2920, what we knew back in 2008 when we completed this study. Tomball, the area in Tomball, the area in question that we're here talking to you about, was the worst area along the entire 2920 corridor in terms of crashes, in terms of mobility, in terms of driveway densities. So for every driveway along 2920, that also creates an opportunity for a conflict, right? Cars to crash. And so in every one of those measures that we look at, Tomball this section wasn't performing very well. And you can see the area between 249 and Huffsmith was classified as severe. So the lines on there, when we measure crashes, not only total crashes, yes, we look at total crashes, but we also measure crashes on a roadway against crashes on a similar type facility. So we look at like a statewide average of crashes on a similar type facility. So if we found another 4-lane undivided roadway in another area, what are the average crashes there? All of that gets rolled up, and so we have an average crash rate, and then we measure an individual facility against that average. This section of 2920 scored really poorly. And so obviously safety, I started out this meeting by saying safety is our #1 priority, and it is. And you know, when we see data like this, we're still compelled to, we feel compelled to do that. Again, if you look at the driveway densities, this same section, super high. And so again, it's correlated that the number of driveways is correlated to an increase in crashes. Correlation isn't causation, but if it is an indication that there could be a problem. And then if you look at the level of service, so we grade the performance of roadways based on what's called level of service. And we give level of service a grade of A, B, C, D, E, and F. Level of service F is basically failure. What that means is you're in complete gridlock. And so this section of the roadway actually scored a level of service F. And we think we can do better. And we think we can make it better.
Because it used to be 45 miles an hour from the railroad tracks to 2978. They'll change it to 30 miles an hour, so that helped a whole lot. And then 2978 has to be repaired, done, it's now a 4-lane road going left. So this is from 2008, and all of that's been done since 2008.
Right, and Kyle can talk a little bit about that later on, but again, we looked at the numbers and they're still above the statewide average. There's still a problem out there. Now we didn't look at 2020 and 2021 because obviously that's an outlier. Those years are an outlier, but when you go back and look at the data from more recent years, and you look at those 5-year averages, and you look at post some improvements, we still have a problem.
Most of the changes based on 99 actually being open and
Just a reminder, let's hold off with the questions because we're gonna try to write them down because then we're gonna compile them. And so that way we'll repeat them, so that way everybody can hear what the question is and then put the answers. So, thank you.
So what did we do back then in terms of public involvement? We had a steering committee made up of subject matter experts from your local MPO, from TxDOT, from the cities of Tomball and Waller, as well as the county. The purpose of the steering committee is to help the consultant and guide the public around a series of public meetings because of the long corridor. We basically presented the same information in 2 locations in the corridor to give everybody a fair travel time to get to a public meeting. And then we had stakeholder meetings where in these types of improvements, we always meet. EMS is automatically, and let me just say, first responders, including EMS, fire, and police. We always meet with them separately, and we meet with them after we've developed the proposed improvements, but before we take it to the second public meeting. So before we show the public the proposed improvements, we meet with those first responders because we want feedback from them first, so we can make any changes in the improvements before we show it to the public and we know that we've incorporated that. We usually also look for other bicycle interests like that. We look for other stakeholders in the community to meet with. And then the access management recommendations. So some of the recommendations for this area, we looked at, obviously there is a raised median. The right-of-way widths vary in here, and so the improvements also have to vary. But we looked at removing the on-street parking and providing off-street parking with adequate signage. add wayfinding for businesses, introduce a raised median with pedestrian refuge, provide channelized left turns, consolidate driveways, widen and improve the sidewalks, update and synchronize traffic signals, improve street signage, provide block numbers, add innovative pavement markings for railroad and pedestrian crossings, and improve parallel east-west facilities and a reroute for the traffic. And so one of the things we heard when we went to the second meeting, the second round of public meetings, some of the stuff that we heard, especially from the businesses on Main Street in downtown Tomball, there was a lot of concern raised about eliminating the on-street parking and some of the changes that we're talking to you, tonight about. And so once we heard their concerns, we kind of put a hold on the improvement recommendations, and we issued a new work authorization for a different scope to address the specific concerns that we heard from the city of Tomball and from the businesses along 2920. That's called the Livable Center Study. And we initiated a study in basically the 6 block by 6 block area of downtown Tomball from, I believe, Pine Street over to the railroad. And said, let's talk about what your concerns are. So, okay, well, it's a 6 block, whatever the limits were. Oh, there it is, Houston Street, Fannin, Pine Street, and BNSF, to the BNSF Railroad. Now, the purpose of that study in particular was to develop a downtown public realm to preserve, promote, and enhance the Tomball sense of place. There was a lot of historic charm and culture in this community that people were afraid that they were going to lose if we lost the on-street parking, if people could not park right out front and get out and get to the business. And so with that, we wanted to talk with them about that and talk a little bit more about what they really wanted. And so we decided, and the state paid for the additional local match, and we obligated some additional federal funds, issued an additional work authorization to the consultant to work with the Tomball community specifically to address these concerns. And thus the Livable Center study was completed. Again, the idea was to preserve the eclectic and historic charm, promote diverse and balanced mixed use and commercial development where people can live, work, and play. So the Livable Center study, we did something similar, but on a scaled down area, because as we were talking, this is a 6 by 6 block service area or study area that we were looking at. And so the steering committee that we had was really just focused on Tomball and meeting with the businesses in that area. We held a community vision workshop to talk about what the needs are of Tomball. And then we came back and proposed some improvements in that 6 by 6 area. The city of Tomball liked what came out of there so much that they immediately began implementing some of it. And they're going to talk to you about that in just a little bit. Suffice it to say, though, this has been, it's a 32-mile corridor that we studied. We have been implementing various recommendations that came out of that study since the study was complete. So we've made some improvements initially to the west on 2920, because we had some severe type crashes out there at the intersections especially, and we needed to make some improvements there. We've been doing some improvements down by 45, trying to solve some problems there and at Kirkendall. And we have money right now to do some additional improvements east of here, between here and 45. So if you guys have been looking, I saw some people shaking their head when I said Houston Galveston Area Council. If you've been looking, you know that we've been submitting applications for funding, for federal funding and state we need the money too, so we have to submit applications for these projects. And the projects go through, and if the applications for funding go through an evaluation to determine if they meet the region's goals of mobility, safety, and other things. So we have to demonstrate not only through our study, but also in the application process, how we're going to achieve the goals of the regional goals for transportation. And so we have been awarded the money, just like we've been awarded the money here in Tomball to do these improvements. And so, but it does take time, probably longer than most people realize, unless you have an interest like you all do in a particular roadway. You probably don't realize how long it actually takes to move projects through the process. So next, so here are the recommendations that came out of that. I believe that the city is going to talk to you a little bit more about what they've done with respect to the livable centers study and the improvement recommendations that were there. And that's it. This is our goal. This is our mission in the street. And Vision zero fatalities, reduce crashes, safety. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, everybody. Can you guys all hear me at the back? Great. My name is Nathan Diedrich, and I want to take this as an opportunity. I've only been here in Tomball for the last maybe 5.5 to 6.5 months, and so I just wanted to say hello and how glad I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this project. Both Kelly Violet and I are going to present part of the planning initiatives and the implementation that has gone on thus far, and kind of a piggyback onto what Catherine was saying. So what we wanted to show you was we have adopted a zoning ordinance. We've also had a study done for access management. We have livable centers downtown plan with their strategic plans and goals that we're trying to achieve. And then we also have our Tomball comprehensive plan. All of these plans are interwoven together in order to achieve certain goals that the city has brought forth that they feel is very important and that the city council has approved. So part of tonight is to kind of give you some vision and some ideas of what this corridor might look like when this improvement is complete. So we put forward some of these visioning documents to kind of give you guys an idea of what this might look like. Here is an illustration of what the Tomball or Four Corners what might look like with the closure of that right turn lane going east onto 2920. Here is another shot from an area that is looking down towards Pine, and this is just some of the improvements and amenities that we're looking to implement along the roadway.
I think this one, if I could butt it, is near the school. So
Oh,
it gives
yes,
you an
I'm sorry,
idea
yeah.
of what that would look like with sidewalks on both sides. And if you notice the mast arms for the street lights, no longer the wire hanging. I'm hoping you can hear me. If you can't, I'll repeat it. But
Can you
what,
try the microphone again,
Sure.
just see if it works?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think you kind of have
Get the
to
top
eat
right.
things. What I wanted to point out with this is you can see, the different visual of what this corridor would look like with the sidewalks on both sides of the street. So if you go down 2920, you know that there are bits and pieces of sidewalks and there's not connectivity throughout the whole corridor. And so this would show you kind of what that would look like at the midpoint, essentially where the elementary school is. And then I wanted to point out from here the mast arm signals, because that will be a huge improvement over the wires that are hanging down now. So the visual clutter from that perspective will be cleaned up. Yes, sorry, yes.
So this is another shot from the Pine Street looking east. So if you're at Pine Street intersection and you're looking east, this is kind of an idea of what you would look at with the widened sidewalks. And again, with some furnishings and again, the new types of light standards that we would be implementing along this part of the road.
With those trees, Steve,
Well,
that's the hardest condition.
I understand, and we're gonna get to that in a little bit, ma'am, and then we can have those conversations right at the end. I promise, we'll get there. I promise. Yeah, no problem. Sorry about that. So here is another location viewing east on Pine. Again, just a different vantage point, just looking across the intersection itself. Again, focusing on that mast arm, removal of those wires hanging across the intersection there, and just some of the improvements to increase the aesthetic appeal of the downtown area. And now I'm going to pass it along to Kelly to finish off.
So I want to talk a little bit back to livable centers, because the livable centers really is what kind of pushed us forward in this process. So the goals of the livable center study was to activate the pedestrian realm, to provide amenities along your sidewalks, your areas where you can experience what downtown is, to provide public parking, and then also to enhance the depot area. So I want to talk about some of the implementation projects that the city has undertaken. You all know the on-street parking had been removed when TxDOT did the resurfacing of 2920, and we were able then to channel people back to the public parking lots. So the removal of those on-street spaces, there were 76 spaces that were taken away. We were able to add 263 public parking spaces. So at the time of the study in 2009, we had 372 spaces in downtown. We currently have 559. Is that enough? Absolutely not. We want to have that problem, right? We want people to come in, but we've got to continue to work through the parking and look at options for parking and connectivity. Also, new sidewalks were constructed along portions of Commerce, Walnut, Market, and Lawrence. And then the Depot Plaza improvements. So the image on the left is the illustration from the Livable Center study. It was really kind of the master plan that drove the improvements in the depot. So things like the public restrooms, those weren't in place when we did this study. Those were things that came out of this. People, you want people to come downtown, you want them to spend money in your shops, they kind of need to use the restroom at one point. So that was something that came out of that, you know, it is part of that implementation. The splash pad, our fountain, the improvements around the actual depot, all of that has been an implementation of what was identified in the Livable Center study. Also public art. So one of the things that we heard from the community when we did the Livable Center study initially, and we did a lot of the visioning workshops, was all these other towns have murals and public art and all these, you know, banners and charm, and we don't have any of that. And so started looking at ways to help increase that. So a lot of the statues and the art murals that have come out of that have been really kind of set from the Livable Center study. What we're working on next, and this is something that will obviously be very important to those of you that have shops on Main Street, is improvements to the alleyways. The city has earmarked money and designed these for the alleyways. We will be looking at making those improvements, hopefully, if I don't speak out of turn, within the next year, David. Yeah. We've got 3 alleys that are being programmed, so that's north and south 100 blocks, and then the 200 block on the north side. This gives you kind of an overview of what that improvement could look like. You can see the alley in the center. I'm done. I do want to mention at the Economic Development Organization, what we do is try to help your businesses grow and succeed. And part of that is helping to implement these studies and these programs. We take what the city has set in their policies and we put that into our strategic plan. Part of our strategic plan is to help implement these things that create character and create opportunities. What we do offer, and I want those of you that are here that may not be aware of it, we do have facade improvement grants. We have business improvement grants, and those are for things like exterior improvements, property improvements. Some of you may be interested in changing up the back of your stores, putting in entrances. We have grants that can help do that. We did a special grant for our downtown called a facade improvement grant, and that will also help with some of the interior improvements. So some of your structural, electrical, plumbing, those types of things are now eligible if you're doing an exterior improvement. So come see us. I do have flyers around. I want to point out, I think my staff is here. Tiffany and Tori, will you raise your hand?
Tiffany's in the lobby.
Yeah, they're in the lobby. Reach out to any one of us if you have any questions about the business improvement grant program.
Well, and while they're doing that, I'll just say that personally, Tomball has been a great partner to work with over these past years, and the fact that you see that you're already benefiting from some of the recommendations that were part of that livable centers shows, you know, wow, we're thrilled. And we know change is hard. We know construction can be very disruptive to your lives, and we're gonna try to work through that. What I usually tell people is short-term pain for long-term gain. This is Kyle's going to talk to you about the actual improvements that he's designing, and you know, this is really a long-term investment for Tomball, and so I think it'll make a big difference.
Thanks, Catherine. I think Catherine's secretly an engineer because she covered most of my stuff. But
Can't hear you.
can't hear me?
But I'm really close.
Really close?
Yeah.
Okay. If y'all have had a chance to look at the plotted exhibits here, that's what we've got shown on the screen. And basically what I'm going to try to cover is key elements to the project. The limits, of course, are going to start on the east side of the bypass for 249 and extend east to terminate at Willow Street. So please, I encourage you to look at this. The orange lines you're seeing on this exhibit are sidewalks. There will be a minimum of 5 feet from one end to the other, both north and south. In the old block area, Old Town area, they're going to be 16 feet wide. They're currently 14. By removing that parking off of that street, we're able to pull those curves out, still get a 5-lane section through there, and give you a little bit more pedestrian rest. Slide. You know, we could probably see a lot better if you turn the light off.
You have to turn the one switch above the screen off.
We can't read it.
We're
Sorry.
I apologize, I forgot that.
We're gonna do some well.
Just in the corner. Yes, to stop sharing the first one.
Patient with my stage hand, he's new.
Hold on.
I'm the new guy.
You're a great new guy. So in general, folks, the reconstruction will be, we'll be reconstructing the corridor here with concrete pavement. Again, we'll have 5-foot sidewalks as a minimum. In the Old Town area, they will be 16 feet. We will remove the northbound right turn at 249 and FN 2920. Northbound right turn movement. We will improve the side street radiuses to aid in visibility for those turning movements and the vehicular size. We will complete the center turn lanes between School and Pine, as well as Sycamore down to Willow. Raised medians with pavers and possibly landscaping will be introduced. We got here, Pine to Elm Street. And then there'll be a short piece of median introduced on the east side of 249 Business and 2920. Other improvements, of course, will be pedestrian lighting. We'll do some Mastron signals. The ladies previous to me covered some of that. There will be drainage improvements included in this, and we will integrate improvements or relocations for city utilities that are currently along this corridor per the city's planning documents. Could need replacement in kind or upside. The documents you got on the right over here, let's go to these. This is where I'm talking about. We'll take this right turn lane out and reconfigure that full area for corners. Safety. The crash data is very intense at that intersection. And we've looked at, back when the study was done, we came back and we looked at the 5-year period between 2012 and 2016. To reassess the crash data, we're still above that. We also looked at crash study between 2017 and 2021. That shows that there was a slight improvement by taking the parallel parking off.
Hold on, we'll get this out of the way. Can we go back to the previous? Let's just talk about what you're actually seeing here, okay? What you're actually seeing here, right now you have that free right? That kind of intersects the four corners there. The free right will be removed, and what will be replaced is a right in, right out only. And the business still has access, so we're not taking away the access, but we're improving the potential crashes and the safety concern that we have at that intersection. We're basically making it a more traditional intersection where you'll go up to 2920 and take a right. And at the same time, then that will offer an opportunity to enhance that area with landscaping and make it look more signature.
Can I have a question? I mean, it does seem pretty landscaped now. By taking that right turn out, but does it really, is there that many accidents at that corner?
Yes. Okay.
Folks,
so
let's hold our questions till the end, please, okay?
Okay, next.
Continue it.
Okay, on this slide, Kyle, you want to go ahead?
What we're showing here is where this is Pine Street, and we're starting to introduce the raised medians. Can you slide that down? Next slide.
They are having problems hearing you now.
Yeah, they can't, you're gonna have to face them.
Really close, really loud.
Okay, so here, all we're trying to illustrate here is to show you what the raised median will potentially look like between Pine and Elm. Okay, so you're gonna cut off cross traffic at Oak. The intent is to push people down to a signalized intersection for a safe turning movement.
So, and that's at both intersections. So if you see the wide median in the center, and then there's a dedicated left turn lane that'll have a raised median that comes back, and you'll be able to store vehicles in that area that want to turn left. And then again, the cross access for North Oak is cut off through via the raised median through there. The raised median offers a couple of opportunities though for landscaping. Again, making that corridor look more signature, for it's a pedestrian refuge. If you have somebody wanting to cross the street, they could more safely do it with the median there. If you can go back again so that they can see the other side of that, right there, this is right here, the median is continuing, and you go up to the next, I guess, Pine Street, which is another signalized intersection. Again, we want to channel people through to the signalized intersection for their left turning movements, because that's a safer way to do it.
Is it going to be a protected left
It's
turn
at the
lane?
end.
Okay, this is the last block here between Walnut and Elm. And again, we've got the raised median introduced there. Beyond that, you go back to the center turn lane. And again, this is where the wider sidewalks are. You've got the raised median. There's a heavy pedestrian activity in these blocks, so it's really safe.
And again, that raised median offers opportunities for landscaping and other things. So if we can, before Ethan talks, do you mind, Ethan? And now that we have those slides, why don't we go ahead and ask some questions, unless everybody wants to hear about landscaping of the trees, then we can ask Ethan to come. We can go back to the slides either way, but a lot of people have some fresh things on their mind. The railroad crossing is open. That was the last slide. So let's go back to the previous slide. So this is the previous, no, next one.
Yep.
This is the railroad right here. It's open there, but then right about here at station 90 is when the median starts. So that will be a raised median that continues for those 2 blocks past Walnut, and then you'll take a left at the next intersection.
Has there been an impact study on the streets where you have all the traffic for the signals? So if an emergency vehicle needs to get through, they can't cross over the street now, that's very median. Traffic stuck on the side streets, traffic lights. Has there been any kind of impact study on that?
No.
And then second, have you worked with Texon on the widening, I'm sorry, with the state of Commonwealth widening of sidewalks? If you're gonna widen, you're seeing all that traffic through 2920 downtown Commonwealth, how are you gonna widen sidewalks and already narrow enough? And lastly, last question. So city of downtown Houston, when they're doing the remodel of the street and everything, still all the businesses. Is the city of Commonwealth prepared to help the small businesses or something with COVID? During this construction time, you're gonna lose all that traffic. All the business.
So I will tell you, I can speak to 1960 because I actually did that study.
Showed all those businesses in 1960, those businesses down there. All businesses. What's the
So let me just say again, from the 1960 experience, we worked with the chamber very closely there. I did that study. We did the implementation. 1960 is one of those roadways we went back and did that evaluation of phase 1 implementation. Our project, the raised median project along 1960, actually was a success. It was a success in terms of mobility and safety, as well as economic viability in that area. There was,
With all due respect, 1960 was small.
I know, but sometimes not residential.
Hold up.
As an example, so I just wanted to talk about that and say we did improve mobility, we did improve safety, and the tax, the receipts, the tax receipts in the area stay the same or in a. And so,
But with all, how many projects have y'all done? Because it's a good act, it's a job. That's what it passed.
well, again, you can't compare downtown Houston.
Right, so nobody's it's not, right, so many people lost their business, so.
And I understand people are hurting for COVID.
And so, I know there's a lot of other people that have questions, so well, let her answer the question. All right. Go ahead.
Talk about 1960.
So, and real quick, I can say, again, I think we presented here today, one of the things that we're very concerned about is the economic, viability of this area and the continued growth of this area. That's why we're putting these supporting, improvements to them.
So there's grants.
I'm sorry.
There's gonna be grants provided by the state, by the city.
As Texan, I can't answer that question.
They say there's no plans for that, because the plans to have access or continue access of downtown, it's pedestrian, there's no driveways to those businesses. The parking lots that we talked about earlier on Elm Street and others, there's still gonna be access, and that's part of the design when we get to that phase, is to have what do we need to do to implement? There's what's called the corridor that's done as sidewalks are being tore up. I mean, this project or projects like this happen, that's why she's talking about 1960, because it's something to compare to. When you talk about downtown and you have stuff to do in downtown Houston, there are things that businesses are going to be affected, and there's ways to continue that access. That is the plan.
But in those instances, those people weren't almost broke from COVID like
You're absolutely right. Yes, ma'am.
So how long is it gonna take you guys to open up the streets to where we can get business back once you start doing it? Because we're struggling right now.
Absolutely.
All of it. Been, Tom, over how many years? I've been here 36. Anybody else wanna give a number? We've been here a long time. But you have no passport.
And some of the
Just like,
businesses
well, what?
So, yes, and absolutely, believe me, we did not plan COVID or to do the project. This is the implementation of it. The best we can do is design and try to do plans to be able to do that. Like I said, there's going to still be access throughout the whole construction period. I know you could try to, real quick, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When y'all did when you removed the parallel parking on Main Street, I know of many businesses that had to close because they lost that walk-up ability for their continue. So, and then you say that you added all these parking spaces, all you did was go mark the side streets in front of people's homes as parking. That's unacceptable. You can't keep adding all these businesses and no parking. So the 159 parking spaces, other than the parking by the railroad, where are they? They're in front of people's homes. Yep. Yeah. And then the light at Pine is useless. You've got a left turn lane at Pine with no protection, so you back up traffic all the way.
And we will look at that.
And are you going to do
We
something about
will
the
not create a problem. We will solve the problem. Where the signalized intersection.
Go ahead.
I believe we talked about this. I believe we have this money that was spent on a campaign for people to stop driving and using
your cell phone. It's kind of like being on a seatbelt. It saves a lot of life. It's not good.
Yeah.
What about the parades? How would the parades go through town? Would they, just for that thing? And are you encouraging, jaywalking?
No, so the first part of the question is the parade, you know, and Bruce is here and I think Brandon's here, so they can talk about it. They have looked at it and there is ways that you can have parades. Again, this is not the only place that's gonna have a 4-block area of a median, so they can be shifted all on one side, be shut down both sides of traffic anyway, so then it's right there, you're gonna be able to make that turn. So there's ways to do the parade still, it's not gonna kill the parade, so that's the one part, and I forgot the second part. What was your second question?
Are you encouraging jaywalking?
Jaywalking. So
no, we are not encouraging jaywalking, but we also don't have our heads in the sand. Then it happens and we have pedestrian fatalities, you know, because it does happen. We have people all over the region, We have pedestrians that are trying to cross the road.
We're in Tomball.
We have pedestrians that are trying to cross the road. And we want to at least provide a safe space for them to do that if they choose.
They can't hear. Baby, so what's
Say that again.
We cross the street back and forth. Across the street, all the time. What's that gonna look like?
On foot?
Yes, pedestrians cross back and forth.
Right.
Often.
And so imagine with a raised median in there, you would have 14 feet of safe curb, a 6-inch curb.
And right now we have to stay over the light of red. We all.
Right, if you cross at a signal, then
Are
that's
we
fine.
going to have that still?
Right.
Isn't
Oh,
that
yes,
law?
yes, absolutely. I mean, crosswalks.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got 3 issues, bear with me, 3 issues I want to bring up about
Probably the
this.
same issues.
Kind of, except one's a compromise for these meetings. So when I looked at the map, the only places that you are doing, and most of my comments were for Old Town, the only places you're doing medians is our 4-block area of our 115-year-old only town in the entire TxDOT study that has had this. So from Pine to Elm is where the medians have been put. The traffic studies that you have, that you quoted up there, I've looked at your crash report, we pulled open records back from the Tomball Police. We know how many wrecks happened in the last 5 years. At Four Corners, how many have happened in Main Street, how many have happened in Old Town, and we only could get one across the tracks. But Grand Parkway opened in 2016. That became the main east-west thoroughfare. All your studies are from 2009 to 2013, and your entire and I know probably started on redo those traffic studies because we are not the deadliest highway in Old Town anymore. So that's the first thing, redo the traffic studies. The second is these medians, as you can see, this is our 115-year-old historical area. It's the only town you got from 290 to 45. And TxDOT is not this big behemoth. They're made out of people who really want to help. They're worried about accidents. We have not had accidents, but these medians will cause accidents. Why can't, since you were doing turn lanes from 290, and all the way down from Four Corners, and then again across the tracks, you're doing turn lanes, and you're stopping the turn lanes at times, continue those turn lanes and put in HALTs, which are pedestrian traffic lights. They have them all over Austin, they have them all over Denton, you put many in. We already have lights at 2 places. So in Oak and in Elm, pedestrian traffic lights called Hawks, you go up, you push the button, the light turns red. You walk across the crosswalk to where you're going. And then the light goes back to blinking yellow, which slows the traffic coming across the tracks, slows the traffic coming down Main Street, and we're not dealing with medians that handicapped people get on, or families holding children. Okay, run, okay, you're there. I don't care if they're 14 feet. That is not a safe situation. Pedestrian traffic lights, Hawks, 2 locations, and doing a turn lane down Main Street in the old area would solve the problem, and it would also keep our downtown businesses viable, that people can be able to turn in.
Is this something that's right, by the city and the state?
You heard this more, you heard at the beginning of the meeting, nothing is set in stone. We're here talking with you.
So in November.
We
all
want
this
you
can
to
change.
understand.
Dramatic, right?
I'm sorry?
In November, all this can change. Sorry.
Or if you're all gonna do this, let's say, is the plan to do the alleyways first so that there is a good, safe place for people to do shop before they ever start on Main Street?
Yes, ma'am. That is actually the plan. That design is about, we're about 90.
We're 99, 98.
So we're gonna go to the first 100 block of Main Street on the north and south side. Improve those alleys. Yes.
David, this project is probably not going to be constructed.
Keep it down. Yes or no? Do Tomball citizens actually have a voice and a say in whether this goes through?
Okay, so, right, and that's a great question, because it's been so long, and I'll tell you, in 2008, like the presentation showed, the active management plan or study was done. And then in 2015, when the city applied or sponsored the grant to go to HGAC to pay for this, to pay this project, is to implement those portions of that plan. So the safety factors of raised medians, the other things that we tried to leverage back in 2015 when they looked at it and said, okay, let's do the livable center piece. And so all of that was part of that application. And so when we talk about can we change that plan? I guess the answer is yes, because nothing's in stone. But as far as that money being utilized for something else, is no. Because that's what it was for. We applied the grant. At that time, when the plans were done and the studies and the grant was voted on to be approved, City Council approved the grant application for this project.
So I'm making we vote, is when we can make that change.
No, like I said, for the grant application, the whole purpose of the grant is implement this. And so if we don't do it, we don't get the money.
Is that the project, a done deal, or do we have a voice in whether that goes through or not?
So if we don't do the medians, then we don't derive some of the safety benefits. And that's what we get with that.
Can she say how many accidents there've been? Because that's what we're all concerned about. There's supposed to have been so many accidents at certain intersections. Y'all can't tell us how many, but she's got the information. And she did that. I found that online.
That's my website, it's online, posted all of this stuff.
How many of y'all are business owners here on Main Street? How many of y'all enjoy the sidewalks you currently have in front of your business? You enjoy them, they're fine, nobody's falling, split their faces open, their heads open. Hang on, just answer my question. Just hang on, answer my question. Humor me. Just humor me. How many of you on the businesses on Main Street have had water inside your businesses during flood? Just one?
Did you have water inside your business during a flood?
How many of y'all had them?
I had it this week, this last rain.
Okay, so how many of you all have got great sewer drainage and water taps and gas into your buildings right now? All y'all do? I've heard from a bunch of you, I'm a councilman, that the water in our downtown area is poor at best. At best for drinking. No. Just hear me out, please. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about a project that has its possibilities.
Yeah. So the project was to reconstruct 2920, do utility improvements to improve some of what we're talking about here. What do you understand? I understand your question is, does the money go away if you don't do the project? Yes.
Do we have a say as citizens as to whether this project goes through or not? Yes or no? Do we have a say?
Well, remember, what project are you talking about? That's not the judging project. All the
whether the medians go through or not.
Yes, but so this is the way, because we've gone through the public hearings, the public comments, to get to this point, the council has the final say.
So that means we don't get a say.
You're elected.
Hey, folks, please keep it down. Let's have one question at a time so we can all hear it. Let's keep it respectful. Thank you.
There's a lot more about this than I know, don't know than I do know, but it kind of sounds like 4 blocks, center median is a big issue that without that, you wouldn't have nearly the controversy. That's something you might think about.
Right.
What I'm mostly interested in is, it seems like an awful lot of space. 14-inch median, 14-foot median, turning lanes, 10, 12-foot sidewalks. How much right of way is going to be obtained or needs to be obtained to accomplish all this?
I don't think any.
You'll be able to do all of what you're planning to do without taking any more rights.
Any right of way in there?
No right of way needed.
No right of way needed.
In Old Town.
And why is that, Kyle? Because the state owns the right of way up to the fronts of the building.
Right, our right of way, actually, some of the awnings on businesses are actually in the state right of way. They're not actually supposed to be.
So will the trees have to be removed?
Yes.
Comparing us to 1960 woodlands. We are listing if they're not going to maintenance our trees in the front of the. We don't really look like the woodlands in 1960. So I'm just supposed to stay enough to be going to that. Secondly, we're on a traffic diversion. Residential areas.
So for sure, during construction is painful, it's short-term pain for long-term gain. We will have the lanes open. 2920 will be open to traffic at all times. Will there be some cut through traffic during the primary construction time period? Absolutely. It's just what, I mean, that's true with any construction project you do. You have some people that want to avoid the area.
Yes, when we do the contract with TechDOT, the council has to approve those contracts.
Okay, it was done in downtown Caldwell, and there were no liquor licenses in downtown Caldwell, where an elected official and one of the restaurant owners got together and went around town with clipboards and had it, with 1,000 signatures put on. So it got put on the ballot for the public to vote on it, for the citizens, signed a petition with enough signatures to get it put on the ballot for us to vote on this and not city council. Well, if it was done before to get the
Right.
prohibition of downtown.
No, right, there may be some people that allow that.
Off of Main Street, in a residential, we're already dealing with, from the school, people coming down our street to avoid that traffic that we already have. So in doing so, and new traffic that you're doing, how are you gonna protect our children on our street of cars coming up? Is there, can they put some medium down our street or some speed bumps or something that's gonna protect us?
So we talked about it with Pete and Chief Bird. There's missions that can happen because of different directions and where you see some of those suggestions and things. We are going to push out a lot of advertisement about 2978 is continuing to expand and grow. Medical complex is that close to opening. We're just waiting on Center Point. It shows up the traffic lights. That's an east-west corridor there that can do a reliever. Holdery, the county, if you ever gone down Holdery, the county is starting to expand and widen that thoroughfare. So there's going to be alternative routes that guarantee people going through on 2978 don't want to go through President's neighborhood. And so if we give, they do, you're right. I mean, we all have done it.
They go,
But
they
if
go
we-
so 30, so they go 40 and 45 down our street.
And so those alternate routes, it's gonna be key. Critical.
I'm just curious, the next steps, what's after this and what the timeline is of some of these projects?
So the next step is for the city of Humboldt to enter into a contract with us for this project, and at that time, the scope of the project will be identified in the contract, and so we'll know exactly what we have said to deliver. But one of the things I do have to mention is that the application for funding that was provided by the Policy Council specifically this project was specifically selected for its benefits to safety and mobility. And if that is compromised in any way, then I don't, that would be a material change in the scope of the project. This isn't a maintenance project or just a reconstruction project. And so if we aren't going to derive the mobility benefits and the safety benefits, then I guess we would need to go back and determine whether the Metropolitan Planning Organization wants to continue the process.
There would probably need to be another study kind of.
No, we've looked at the crash data. The crashes in this area are still higher than the statewide average, even if they're lower, even if the sheer numbers are lower. But again, if you compare it to the statewide average for a similar type facility, they're still above the statewide average. They still present a problem, a safety concern for this area.
What is the?
Yes, sir.
I have two parts, two. One is, I'm trying to rationalize the statement that I've heard several times. This is not set in stone. With the statement that it is being sent out for bid, or we will have bids in, I think, by November. So are the people bidding, being asked to bid on something that isn't set on stone?
No, it's not bidding. It is not
So
bidding.
that's the word that we
It's
use.
the PMO, so we do 2 stages of engineering. We do what's called schematic engineering or preliminary engineering, and that's what you're seeing right here. Those are schematic documents. That's what these layouts are here. When we get through that process, we begin what's called PS&E, or plans, specifications, and estimates. And that's a big package with all the design specs and all the little design details that contractors, that we as a state put out for bid. And contractors pull that down and they develop bids and submit them in the required time. We haven't even started the PS&E package. So when I said that this project was scheduled to let in 2023, but I said may be delayed. We're not even under contract with the city to develop the engineering documents. So we haven't even done the engineering that we need. So it for sure is going to be delayed. No, we are nowhere near bidding this project.
The other thing I wanted to ask, and this is far-fetched, I know, but what would be the effect of the money that was being set aside for things which are apparently controversial in 2920, were instead provided as funds to this city and others to increase their police department staffing so that we could get better control of people running stoplights and causing crashes?
Yes. I would love if your gas tax dollars, both your federal and your state gas tax dollars, could be utilized to do that. There are state laws and yes, the federal funds that are used to improve your state highways are funded through your state gas tax and your federal gas tax. That goes, your federal money goes, you pay 18 cents at the state level and 20 cents at the federal level. And that money goes up to Washington and then it comes back down in the form of block grants to the state to select projects and implement roadway improvements. And it's earmarked and dedicated for transportation. They won't allow us to do anything else with those gas tax dollars.
Right here. Some question. You still talked about what the meeting is. You're basically just going to funnel traffic down, down Pine and down Walnut, right, to hit the relic district. But how are you going to? I guess I'm confused. Are you just going to have more construction right after this is completed? Because those are going to be widened to get people somewhere right here. This is a popular area right here. So you're going to have to either U-turn here, which is dangerous, which means it's useless, or over here you can't turn down Walnut anymore. You can't turn down Elm, so everybody's going to have to stop early or try to get somewhere over here to come this direction. So aren't you just going to have to widen those roads at some point because you're funneling traffic to those roads?
No, but that's a valid concern that we need to.
As part of the design process, this will all be remodeled.
Speak up.
As part of the design process, the operational components of this traffic will all be remodeled. Okay, the turning movements will be analyzed. Okay, and that's why you see that's a very long median. You got no left turn lane at Elm Street.
Would it be possible to have new data before moving forward?
The 2017, 2021 crash analysis still shows this corridor above the state average. Okay, there has been improvement.
What is the state average? I mean, let's just put that number out there so we can react to it. What is it? Y'all talk about this all the time. What is it?
Do we actually have those numbers?
Do you actually have them? That's the question.
So
Get those numbers.
he's going to get the numbers. We did look at the additional crash data before 99 opened up and then afterwards, but we did not consider 20 and 21, because those are outlier years, right? Would not be appropriate to include in your crash data.
So real quick, I got one, there's a, right to the gallery next.
So wait on it.
We have a question, right here.
I've never seen a crowd on the sidewalk where they cannot get by because it's not wide enough. And that's the fucking waste. And then you put all that concrete in the center, the medians, and no turn lanes in. And it seems like they're using this space in a strange sort of way. And then you want to take out the trees, which could possibly fit in that design if you didn't have wide sidewalks and wide median down the center. How many people are getting killed crossing the street on top of it?
So the question was, why do the sidewalks have to be wider? And then the other question was that the medians will be ugly with all that concrete in the center. And she asked how many people are getting killed walking along the sidewalk or across the street. And so the answer is basically the sidewalk amenities were for the businesses in the area so that we can continue to support the businesses in the area where people have a very safe, comfortable space to walk and patronize the businesses, and it becomes a destination place where people feel very comfortable because you have wide, level sidewalks throughout the downtown Tomball area. And when if you build it, they will come. And so we do hope that the medians on there, Tomball gets to decide what those medians can look like. They can be landscaped, vegetation in the center, and flowers and everything, so that the area looks signature. It looks like an area where people want to slow down and perhaps stop.
What about the trees?
The trees during construction and when you pull up the existing concrete that's there, and you put back concrete that's in there, those trees are going to be disturbed. And there is a plan though to put back trees that are quality signature. Oh, okay.
I have two questions. First question is, how long did it take you to do a study on safety from January to today? Because we just had German Baptist, one of our kids was, did they have any investment in the accidents in those areas right there in the main store, right? It's not on there. Before crossing, we had 3,000 people come in that day. I don't think we've had any problems. Okay, we've had sick and see 2 or 3 nights now where people are going on both sides of the street. We have problems. Okay, I understand around here at 249 and 149, there are accidents a lot because people are coming off the freeway. Now there's 2978, everything's going like crazy. But the blocks you're talking about, people stop, I stop myself and let people walk around the street. And so I don't think that's a safety issue. They walk right there, they don't want to do that in, and so I don't agree with you saying you're doing it because of safety.
But you were saying that you stop and let people cross?
Everybody. We have people from Spain, we had people from Germany in town, we had people from all over the world come visit our people. And we haven't had issues with safety in that area. And as far as the trees go, there's cities all over the United States who have trees in their sidewalks. And they have them all over the place, and you can use a gorilla rebar under your sidewalk, but tree roots aren't gonna mess with it.
Right, and I think Ethan was here to talk with you a little bit about, even if the trees had to go, new trees would be put in. We've done this.
Well, we pay to have these trees.
Well, that's like people that, all right.
Hold on. Try to catch everybody. Go ahead.
So TxDOT is gonna do this, it's gonna do this reconstruction or whatever, no matter what the final plan is, whether they put the units in or whether they put the units or not put the units, is that correct? No. That's not.
Most of us aren't hearing any of this conversation.
Right, she was asking if TxDOT's gonna do the reconstruction, regardless if none of the other improvements happen. And I said, that's not true.
That's not what she said. No, that is what she said.
No, what I'm asking is, I guess what I'm asking is, the changes, I mean, I know the project, the details are not in sight, right? But the project itself will proceed, correct?
The project itself can proceed, yes, because it's fully funded. You know, we have entirely the capacity to do the project. There's nothing that's limiting us from moving forward with the project.
When I first, it does, it absolutely does. So when I first moved to the area, I know Cypress Hill is not in this area very well, but Cypress Hill was a 2-lane, nothing road from 290 all the way down to 2920.
Right.
And now it's, I mean, I know there's not businesses and it's mostly residential and everything like that, but the changes have been made to Cypress Hill with, I mean, and now you've got Trumbull ISD, which has got that big campus and new stadium at 99. So it's, you know, I know it's not the same comparison because it's not, you know, businesses or whatever. That's my only question was, I think it's going to proceed no matter what the final is.
The project can proceed.
Okay, we have a question, right?
Yeah, I think this lady already touched on what I was going to ask, but we keep saying about this is the most dangerous corridor, but we know what sections are really dangerous. And controversy seems to center on the medians in the Fort area. There are obviously other alternatives that would be equally safe and would allow pedestrians to move in a different manner. So, there's is the final say with council. I mean, TxDOT this is a state highway, and I know you work with cities. Who has the priority over a final decision? Is it all rest with council? What about the people's voice? And what about TxDOT? You have a way that you can respond to this project. There's a phone number and an email. If you heard from all the people in this community, what would TxDOT do? Would they go back to council and say, we need to look at other alternatives?
We are absolutely going to go back to council and talk about that agreement. Again, where we would present the scope of services or the scope that would be provided in the contract, and we would enter into a contract with the city of Tomball to deliver this project.
But she didn't ask about an agreement, she asked
Right.
about.
That agreement will give our mutually, we'll have a mutual decision about how we move forward with this project. So what I'm saying is we need a mutual decision in order to move forward with this project. There is nothing that's stopping the state from being able to deliver this project to you. Like I said, money is usually the key. We need the design. The city of Tomball is providing that design. If we don't get the design, we can't do the project. To get the design, we have to have a contract with the city so that we can oversee the design work and ensure that it meets state and federal standards. So we can't move forward without design, and that PXE package that we talked about that we did, is move forward with that. And if something materially changes in the project, we would have to look at, are we, meeting the requirements of the grant in the first place? There might be questions about whether we're actually achieving our goals. The city of Humboldt wrote the grant with support from the state. It was approved in 2012, maybe
2015.
In 2015, in the cultural projects in 2015, the funding was approved. And again, that was, the project was approved based on certain improvements aside from specific. Sure.
So you amend that, you take out the words.
Take out the money.
We have the city council here today, is that right?
Yes.
Can we get a show of hands on the city council so I know how to vote in May? Who on the city council? If your hand is not up, that means you're not voting for the meeting?
I'm on city council, and I'm up to reelection.
And you're voting for the meeting?
What I'm here to tell you, this meeting tonight was really to drive this conversation 100%. We have not inked the deal. We don't have a contract, we don't have a design for it tonight, we don't have the engineering done. I mean, this thing is coming, could be coming like a freight train. If we want to influence this design, we've been putting money away for years to have this money to do the design. Because TxDOT doesn't care about the width of our sidewalks. They care only, President something included, they care about the traffic flow and safety. What's that?
Check your voice up.
Y'all can't hear me. I'm rarely accused of that. So I'm going to speak up a little bit. Just backing up a little bit, we are here tonight to drive this conversation. We haven't inked the deal. For years, we've been putting money away, about $500,000 a year for multiple years. We have $3 million in the bank to influence what TxDOT's going to do. If we do nothing, I don't know. Do they come through town and do what they want to do? I don't even have a good answer myself. But what I do know is we have money, we've got EDC potentially influenced, and we have you guys. And we are going to influence, and we're going to get what we want to the best of our ability. It sounds like we're still negotiating at the end of the day with TxDOT because they have some wants. Am I right about that?
Yes.
So this is not a case where we get to say, this is what we're doing and this is how it's going to be done. We're in negotiation, and you guys here today are helping us negotiate.
She asked her personal opinion on the answer.
I am going to look at all of the. Well, that's look, I'm not going to sit up here and be dishonest. What I'm going to say is I'm going to be thoughtful. And I'm going to look at each and every element because we are just now getting those right now. Yes, these medians have been in there, and yes, they have some tremendous negatives. But I'm going to be thoughtful. I'm going to ask tough questions, and I'm going to listen to you guys. Y'all mean a lot. I mean, business owners here are a priority. I'm worried about our downtown business owners. I mean, that's a high-level priority for this. Mediums, I'm worried about mediums. I'm worried about the negotiation we're going to have with TxDOT. What if they tell us you have to have them? I don't know. We're gonna approach this. So I'm going to give up the floor. I'm going to stay. I'm not leaving to come
talk to me afterwards, and I'll be glad to talk.
Right here, go ahead.
I'm really sorry. I want to try to take a lighter note, if you guys don't mind. Gosh, I'm so sorry but I know everyone's getting excited about all the anchors, so. Can I take a lighter note? Can we come back to the cross section by the railroad tracks? I'm so surprised this is not getting talked about enough. So I think it's.
Can't hear you.
Oh, you will in a moment. Once he gets there. Yeah, that one right there. Okay, so I live in downtown, Old Town. Where'd it go?
Where'd it go?
Give it a second, it's popping up.
Hold on.
Put it in
No one
history.
can hear me talk until this comes back.
There we go.
There it is. Hey. This is a problem right here. Okay, and I don't think there's anyone in this room that could disagree with it. And so when I see a U-turn right there, I don't really think, I love everything you guys are doing. Keep going, let's go, progress. We gotta do something about that intersection. There needs to be a crosswalk there, and I'm surprised it's not in this. This is really highly used for, here's the fun part, festivals, which make Tomball really cool.
Absolutely, and so again, conceptual, but you're right, we've
So
talked about
So design is the
across.
thing, right?
Yes.
So it'd be really cool to see something neat there in design, because, I live a couple blocks away, that's the most dangerous, I'm scared, I can't even I have to drive my kids across.
I agree.
So, you guys,
Okay, and go ahead,
Okay,
we got
so
this one and then.
whoever's taking notes on that.
business owner on Main Street, just curious about, we've got 2 years of construction we're looking at for Main Street. It does look beautiful. Got what it does about it. Does look like it could be pretty. Talk to me about who is in charge of the alleys. I hear the alley construction still looks pretty too, but it looks like it's gonna be started kind of up by the railroads and all of that. Where will the next sections be? Are we looking at 4 years of construction in downtown Tomball? How long is that going to take to get our alleyways to look as pretty as your picture look? Who's in charge of planting those trees? Who's in charge of decorating the medians to make them look pretty? Because we do have trees on Main Street right now, but if we want flowers around our trees, that's us. If we want a pool of weed, that's us. Who's going to take care of it once, say, all of it happens? Who's gonna take care of making it look pretty and not just, oh, we gave you guys a median, you decorate. So ultimately, how long will that take? Which part of that is that Texas or is that?
So the alleys is the city of Tomball, we're doing the first one, the first phase is the 100 blocks on north and south. We do those, and then really those, we're gonna learn a lot about how to stage and do other things. And then with funding, I'm sorry?
What's the expected, like, how long will those take for y'all to take?
So those, for the first phase, right, for the first phase, the construction period, we're allotting.
You're probably 4 to 6 weeks per alley. And they will probably be done in half.
Yeah.
We can we chunk that sequence, or can we maybe chunk that in a sequence? Yes.
We have to, because we gotta still
Tell us
continue.
what that sequence is.
Oh, absolutely. Once we get it programmed, we have to get with all the business owners about when it's gonna be tore up, what we're gonna do, what kind of access you're gonna need for your business. If you have access through the back, type of thing. If it's all in the front, then it's minimal impact. So there's all of those planning parts once we get that schedule set.
So, and that brings up a very good question. During construction, as I said, at least for the state, the lanes will always be open to traffic. You're gonna have orange barrels, that's just the pain of construction. We work with communities to try to avoid or at least have as open as possible during construction if you have special events. For instance, I'll tell you, when we made improvements down in Galveston asked us, please don't do anything during Mardi Gras. Please have as much open as possible during Mardi Gras. There's only one water line going to the island over there. We need that water line ready and open. And so we definitely will work with the businesses in the area and the cities and our other partners to try to meet the locals' concerns, to try to keep things open during special times. So you had the festival this weekend. If you you know, if that's something where we need to not have contractors, we can arrange that. And,
So the landscaping in beginning, TxDOT absolutely is gonna put everything in. Ethan was here, can you talk a little bit more detail?
My name is Ethan Gleason. I'm the landscape architect and arborist for TxDOT in this region, 6 counties. So I've already committed to get the roadway that's rebuilt. If the trees are damaged and have to be removed, I've already committed to having a landscape contract to replace trees at the design, whatever the city wants. And that would include landscape in the medians as well. If the goal is to put landscape in the medians, I have no trouble including that in the landscape contract as well. To me, the landscape portion is an easy solution. Whatever comes out, we certainly will replace it. You go back in with irrigation systems, we have a 1-year warranty on everything that we do. After the 1-year warranty maintenance period, the city would be responsible for it, or somebody, the local entity would be responsible for it.
Yeah, I have 3 things. I wanted to address the voting on this. This started in 2009, and I know the first month I was in council, which was May of 16. May of 16 I was elected, and so first month of June, we had on the agenda talking about the 4 alternatives for the road. And at that time, there was one alternative that said take off parallel parking and it will save our trees. And then it had language according to the livable study that talked about all the things that TxDOT was done. And the question, and you asked me why I have it, but I keep and it says, okay, well, if we vote for this, we're voting for the medians. And this is what our consultants, CLR, did when they were doing this. It says at this time, the improvements in our yearly program for implementation in the near future based on meetings that TxDOT conducted during this investigation. And that was a June of 14 vote, and we all voted to take off the parallel parking in Tomball in order to assist our downtown area, plus make more room. And then at that time, we had trees. And so we didn't have to worry about trees. And to be honest, I thought medians were gone at that time. Well, January 1 of 2015, posted, it was the plan of action on Harris County government, Galveston County, the actual dictation of what the road was going to be. And that was 6 months after that post. To my knowledge, I don't know if that ever came before council again, did it? Did we ever discuss this January 15th one posting in 2015? I don't remember other council. Do y'all remember a workshop on it, discussing the medians or anything? No. So, well, when we voted in June of 14, it was not ready yet. And it didn't get posted until January of 15. And I wish that, we would have had something to discuss, and that's really when this needed to be discussed. Because TxDOT, no offense, but y'all don't like to erase. And these 4 blocks, will you at least consider other alternatives to these medians during this time, like the pedestrian crosswalk? The gentleman who brought up the railroad, if there is a crosswalk there and a pedestrian light, that solves that problem. And the blinking red light will be seen from across the tracks to slow it down. That solves that problem. Putting another one at Oak, that solves that problem when people are crossing, and we already have the other 2 lights, and there are no medians. And that's probably cheaper for y'all to build. So will you at least consider that? Without canceling the contract.
Absolutely. As long as we continue to do everything to promote safety.
And this does promote safety. The last thing I have is, yes, I'm glad we had a meeting. Yes, I did be. But the public comment period for this project, which is number 17085, started the 22nd of March with an open hearing. And comments are due to TxDOT by the Sunday night, April 4th. So by the end of the day. Now, I can give you, I'll call out the telephone number you can call and leave a public comment. And I will also give you the email for public comments and make your comments. TxDOT will listen. Yes. And by federal law, they have to go through every comment. So all of you, please make your comments. That has never been brought up. The 22nd, when you get online and you have the public comment, but then the project is. This is also posted on the website. So let me give you, here is the 2022 transportation program for Harris County. Harris Galveston County. And I think that all the improvements that you're making on Alma, putting in a median so you can turn right, and also taking out the curve and forefront. And Alma is where our only fatality was in 10 years. Yeah. Because of that funny little curve trying to turn left. So the improvements you're doing, the widening, putting in turn lanes all the way down Main, please continue the turn lane to Old Town and do the 2 lights. And that will solve a lot of the issues that you're dealing with. All right, the telephone, I'm sorry, I'm figuring out the personal number. It's 1-855-363-2516. That is the number you call. A reporter will come on there. Tell them it's job number 17085, Tomball, between 249 to Willow. What number is that?
And read the number again, please.
1-855, it's on your public comments program.
Greg Seals.
It's 1-855-363-2516. The job number is 17085. And then there's also an email, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Well,
and the email is public comments at h-gac.com. Now, if this is just taken off of the website, this is in the
right.
research.
So let me tell you real quick.
No.
Let me tell you real quick what that is, and you can certainly provide your comments there. But the information that you've just been given is not a soliciting public comments very specifically for this project. It is not. What is okay? That Houston Galveston Area Council every 4 years has to publish a transportation improvement program, a TIP. And it is a 4-year program of projects that's going to happen over the next 4 years. This TIP is going through the public involvement. This TIP will be called the 23 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program. All of the projects in there are the projects that have been funded for this region. So they are soliciting comments on the entire plan for the 8-county region, which includes this project, because this project is federally funded and therefore it has to be included in that document. So you are more than welcome to make your comments about this particular project known to your Transportation Policy Council, which serves as the metropolitan planning organization for this region. In fact, I would encourage you to go to h-gac.com and you can hit transportation or mobility. I forget which one it is. And a little drop-down menu will come down below and you can look up Transportation Improvement Program. You can see all the tips that are there. And you can look at all the projects in this area in the region that are going to happen over the next 4 years. So absolutely.
What's the more direct,
the best
what's the more direct number then for specific this project?
So I would contact one of my council members and have them speak on your behalf.
Not directly to TxDOT.
We don't actually have an official public engagement opportunity. That's what your city has done. And I'm here at the request of the city to help them, talk to you guys about this project. We're not.
Raise your right.
Go ahead.
Right, I'm sorry.
I'm here all night. Okay, I'm good. You go, girls. No, you got it. I just want to make a comment. It's not really even a question. I own 213 West Main now, so I'll keep my occupy my phone. My family owns 220 West Main, been in the family since they. There are issues with our sidewalks. There are issues with the current tree. It breaks my heart. It actually makes me emotional. Because it's beautiful down there and I love looking down Main Street and seeing the tree line. But there are liabilities that are occurring. They're affecting property, they're affecting structural issues. I'm sorry. We can't ignore that. It does put the city in a liability situation if we don't address it. It really, there's so many things that are so positive now. It really, I'm even getting emotional talking about it. I'm not really breathing like that. I feel strongly about that part of Tomball. I love it. And it is. My daughter's there, my sister's there, my heart's there for sure. I really want us to see if we can come together and figure out some solutions. There is a way to make it work that is for the betterment. Safety wise, I get it. I'm not a medium kind of girl, but I definitely think the sidewalks need to be addressed. I hope that those powers that be will take everybody's opinions and comments into account. They matter. This town matters to a lot of people. It's our livelihood. Okay.
Here, it's my first time hauling them. So all I want to say is you're going to put a meeting right where my customers are going to go, so I'm freaking out. But what I want the council, like was saying, to listen to, I don't know what business you have. I don't know your name. I'm on your team. I like all of your ideas about this. When I think about Tomball, I think of iconic towns in Texas like Fredericksburg, and making Tomball something like that, where then I understand the safety, got it. But like she said, if we could really think about things that enhance our customers' experience, our families' experience downtown. I don't think the medium's the way to go. I think there are other ideas, making it slower down there, doing those hop things. I mean, look at towns like Austin, like these towns that are similar to us. I feel like the idea of this is taking 2920. It's from here to here. It's highway, and you are forgetting we're a destination. We're a town. You can't compare business and someone who wants to be here a long time and make it through this construction. I really would like to see us go back to the drawing board of this area right here of Tomball to make it more of a destination, easier access for pedestrians. And I honestly don't care about cars, I care about people and us shopping around that area, how we make that good. What you do down there, don't care. But that,
and that is that we have an arterial roadway, right? You remember that hierarchy of roadways? What you're asking for is a local street. One that people can walk along, stroll along, go shop to shop, be in that main street. That is a local, that's kind of a local or collective street. what we have is an art, no, 2920 is an archery.
But we have you. I wanna know, I hear everybody talking about the business and stuff, what is gonna happen in front of the school down there?
Yeah.
You go from 2 lanes, people looking up their children, and you're backed up, and I've seen cars pull out from other people with their wrong lane. I've seen things that I don't like to see. So what's you guys plan for that area?
So let me finish up here.
Let me say one thing first, though. I understand what you're saying, that you guys gotta come through and you gotta do it, but you're coming through our neighborhood. This was not a master plan community. I have a business on Main. I live 1 block off of Cherry Street. I don't want my business to fail, but I also don't want a bunch of people going down, millions of people going down Cherry Street. I'm in that first block. That's where I live. That's where my home is. I mean, I feel like, slow it down through here, slow it down. You wanna help our businesses? Make it slow it down up there. People are gonna look.
So what I would like to see is people again that can get out of their car and walk down the street. Okay, and they can do that safely and comfortably. Okay, I want to see them if they're walking down the street, say, oh, I want to go there.
So we need to halt. So then they can get over to it.
Except for hooks, where you can go at it. Okay, so some people, what did I hear earlier? I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. I heard earlier that people will stop and let people cross mid-block. That's very safe.
Want them or not want them, or?
It wasn't about, it wasn't his, it was his.
So that's.
I know, but.
That's up where vehicles cannot. It's a raised.
We have one right here. No, we're trying to get to it. You've been patient.
Actually, I have a question. I appreciate all the downtown discussion. And I'm anti-meeting and I'm going that I'm with you guys. I would like to move the conversation down a little further to the east. We have a business that's on Magnolia, which intersects, and the structure of the building is effectively, if I look at the plan view, you have it brought up, it is within distance. In other words, no eminent domain. Do I understand that correctly? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Okay, well, eminent domain is a whole nother discussion. But for me, if you expand the road, put another lane in and the sidewalk, based on the numbers I see, you're inside my building. So you're going to be taking an income producing part of my building away from me. How are you guys going to address that?
So I can actually speak on that and Kyle can elaborate. So there's 2 phases, there's ways you can do it, and there's part of the plan didn't include anything out from the building, because that's proposed to this right there. The one that we're proposing does not damage the building. So when you see some of these schematics will have that movement with, and then there's one that actually this is based on, it's not. And so when we talk about your eminent domain, what she's saying is that we have need to acquire about some corner clips or turns at the intersection. But as far as buildings, there are no damaging out of buildings.
Okay, well then,
that's what corner clips. So it's just less than an acre for the whole thing. In order to correct.
Okay, and just to step one more, since while I trust you in the office and so forth, I would like to speak to the city engineer so that I can talk to you about the prints. That plan, because that's the horse's. If that's what tells me we can do this, we can't do this through the distances, in other words, this is empirical evidence.
So that is, we have survey data that TxDOT provided us, they get through there, so it is pretty close. It's not the final design plan, but it's enough to be able to know what kind of things are gonna be like damage out buildings or what kind of right of we need. So if you want specifics for that track, that is how to be the one that will tell you.
I'm sorry,
Hey, Colin,
We'll talk.
Justin, how can you have some of your names?
I do. My name is Derek Townsend. For those of y'all that don't know me, I am a city councilman here. I've also been in the privy of government in my profession for about 38 years. Traffic signals was my business that I was involved in before I got how do we say, retired, because of COVID problems. Guys, we want our young people to come to this town. I'm 64, and there's a lot of people in here that are a lot older than I am. I can tell by the color of your hair, okay? But we want young people to come back and continue to revitalize our community. And in order to do that, we've got to have things to make them want to come here. And one of the things that this council has been doing since I've been involved is trying to bring downtown alive. Alleyways, concerts, the depot area, and it's becoming more and more successful by the efforts of everybody that works for our community and our city. I am but a voice of yours. Okay, so I'm here to listen to what all y'all have to say. I have not made my mind up. I will tell you that I have publicly said I'm against medians. I will also tell you that in the last council meeting before last, I was the one that brought up the bullnose right there where you're talking about it. And I said, we got to be able to do something maybe with some in-ground LEDs or something not to affect our parade. I brought the parade up. So all these things that you guys are saying, we're hearing. But this money could go somewhere else. And as I tried to allude to earlier is, we've got problems in downtown with our utilities, our sidewalks, our trees causing problems. We got to get it fixed. And we can either try to shape this project a little bit and have the state fund the majority of that work, where the taxpayers of Tomball aren't getting hit in our pocketbooks. Or we can tell TxDOT pound sand, and then it's all going to be on our backs, every single bit of it.
Our question is, how does we shape?
And I think that's the part of the deal is I was one of the ones who pressed this, and Councilman Quinn did not want us to vote on the last AWA. How do you say it? AFA, which is a agreement stating TxDOT, we are interested in doing this project, but it was no money involved in that transfer whatsoever. It was simply telling these folks, we want to see what we can do to work with TxDOT in order to make this project happen. Guys, y'all's businesses are the life of our town. We know that. We understand that. So
how do we shape that?
I think we have to, okay, we have to get to the point of where we can see what they are actually talking about doing and saying, no, we don't want that. And that's what you're telling us, but you have to understand, they're not to the point of telling us this is what we have to choose from, or this is what we can do. This schematic here that they have now is a little bit further along than it has been. So, like I said, the bullnose, I said, we don't want that. It'll affect our parade. Guys at the parade, Bruce and a couple of other people said, oh, it won't affect our parade at all. But I said, but I think it will. So anyway, but now we're at a point where you guys tell us what you don't want. And the medians, I understand. I don't want the medians. I was raised in Huntwick. Anybody know where Huntwick is? FM 1960. I went to Cyfair High School. So I've been around this area for many, many years. I don't want what happened on FM 1960 to happen to Tomball, Texas in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And that's why you all can contact me. I'll give you my phone number. My cell phone number is 281-610-2183. That's my private cell. You're more than welcome to call me and talk to me. I'll meet with you and talk with you. Because I represent you guys. I'm not here to tell y'all what y'all want. Y'all are here to tell us what you want. So that's all I have to say.
Sorry. My name is Mark Stoll. I'm a city councilman here in Tomball as well. And I just have a couple questions. First of all, for the state, is the main purpose of the medians to try to get traffic to continue through and at some of these intersections that do not have lights to prevent people from turning left? Is that what the main purpose is?
The main purpose of the medians is to prevent the left turns at those cross streets and to provide pedestrian recognition.
How are you gonna address it? Let me say that. Okay. I'm not concerned about pedestrian refuge because I don't think we have an issue with people crossing at the lights.
at mid-block.
at the lights. But, yeah, and we can do crosswalks, we can do things like that. But my question is, have we ever considered at those intersections that do not have the lights, extending the sidewalk in the curb and gutter, where people can only go up to those streets and turn right, where they cannot turn left? And that way, we can eliminate medians. Traffic can still flow out, but it can only turn right. And traffic that's coming cannot turn left onto a non-street light area.
Mark, it's the same thing I brought up a while back, making it the way you can only turn north or south, depending on whether you were going east or west. And I brought that up several years ago.
I mean, I'm from a town where they did that, and it worked.
Yeah.
Your engineer would need to look at that geometry to see if that works and to see what kind of impacts to right of way, what kind of right of way would be needed to provide basically a right in, right out, but no through movement.
The right of way is ours.
People live on those.
The right of way is the city. We can vote on that. I'm just asking, has that ever been considered?
So again, let me see if I understand what you're asking. This cross street right here that proposes a median, you're saying make it so that when you're coming on North Walnut,
I'm saying at these intersections here, at Elm, Walnut, that do not have traffic signals, we extend the sidewalk out halfway into the intersection. So if people drive up, they can only turn right. Then traffic, if the median is eliminated, traffic that is coming from the opposite, on the other side, cannot turn left because there's not a turn lane for them to turn into.
It's not a southbound lane.
There's no southbound lane.
that would have to be looked at.
It would, Mark, it would have to be modeled, and I think what you're talking about is intersection of 184.
That's exactly what I meant.
I think there you.
Downtown.
Can't hear you at all.
He was saying there are a lot of cities that have implemented that kind of treatment.
All right. My question is there a contingency? So I'm from Tomball Farmers Market. Is there a contingency in place? We all don't like medians. Is there a contingency to get our patrons across the street safely at Elm and at Walnut? We see it happen every weekend. There's a problem at Walnut with people who are trying to get to our market safely. Have you guys considered a contingency to get people across safely? I understand the car issue, but we need to get people to, my goal is to get people to Commerce Street. I want people to be able to shop at our market and continue on the other side. Is there a contingency? Have you guys thought about that?
The only thing that Councilman Quinn brought up, like I said, I was in traffic signal business for many years. Matter of fact, I started working in design down in Uptown. But the Hawk signal is something that is very possible that could be used in this community. Very possibly could. The only problem we have is if you go over by the high school, they've got a crosswalk that they put in, I guess this last summer, and about 9 times out of 10, if you go there, it's flashing very erratically. So, and nobody's in the crosswalk. And I'm sitting here going, why do we even have a crosswalk that has that, that availability with people parking anybody? But the Hawk systems are very viable. They really are.
Okay, well, I'm Judy Eggleston. I own the building at 220 West Main, and so multiple things here. So one, before the turn lane went in on 2920, there were wrecks all of the time. Once the turn lane went in on 2920 to be able to turn on a protected turn onto Cherry Street, turning north and south, alleviated for rec school. I mean, it's got down, now it is so rare to have a rec there. Literally, one day I was in my office, which is upstairs, right below the corner post, before the turn lane went in, because all the traffic would stack up, then they come in, somebody's not paying attention, collide, and they ran into that column. I mean, I thought the building's about to fall down. After that turn lane went in, it was amazingly different. So now with the median, you're proposing to go and take out part of that turn lane. Yeah, you're saying, I'm gonna give you some of this turn lane, but I'm gonna take out a good majority of it. Now we're just talking about backing the traffic up again. And those wrecks are gonna start to, happen again. So, I'm all about keeping turn lanes, putting turn lanes in, and no medians. So let's see, secondly, Mr. Townsend, thank you so much for recognizing that the current trees that we have, they are beautiful, they look gorgeous. If you are, just driving by, they look great. They wreak havoc on the sidewalks, and they also provide an avenue for water to get trapped underneath your foundation and create heaving that I've just now discovered is what the problem is in my building. So I have to say, if those trees that were and I believe they were donated to the city back in late 70s, early 80s, anyhow, were not installed properly. So there wasn't any type of barrier system. And so anyhow, as we know, how far do big oak tree roots go? They go to the drift line, and they find places to go and allows water to follow them and create voids underground. So I have to say that I know there's a lot of people that would be so sad to see the change, but I think that if there was a tree option or a planter option that would be properly installed, I would absolutely be for that. Of course, and then thirdly, I am concerned myself. Some of y'all will not be happy to know, but I'm probably not going to publish another directory. I published the Tomball Magnolia directory with my sister, and my family has done it for 43 years, and the viability of doing that doesn't make sense any longer financially. But so I'm going to do something with the building. I'm either going to lease it out to someone or I'm going to sell it. So all of a sudden now, what's going to happen when you've got this, property and it's all torn up? So what does that future look like? So I have concern there. The other concern that I have is along Cherry Street, and I know that it was mentioned too that when the alleyway project happens, that there will be some sidewalking that happens on Cherry Street. Is that true or not at this point?
Around the whole block is trying to get that walkability.
Okay, yeah, because on Cherry Street right now, I see people, it's all gravelly, it's uneven, and, I see people stumbling and struggling along there, and of course, if you were in a wheelchair, just forget it. And so, I do think that that's a really, severe problem, but the sidewalks themselves are, actually dangerous, and then the other problem with the sidewalks is the tree roots push them up and pushes all the concrete up and forces all the water back towards your building. And then the drainage is impacted because of all the trees. I have pictures if anybody would like to see, but literally after the rain on, Tuesday night, that came through Wednesday morning, and by the big drain that's out on 2920, all of the leaves, this huge pile of leaves. And then as well, I just want to mention to the city that I've been weed eating my side of the parking lot, but nobody weeds the alleyway anymore. So I didn't know if that was just kind of getting up on the alleyway maintenance until, the project happens. So anyway. A quick question. So does the city own the trees? Does the city own the trees?
Well, we owned the business in the early 80s. That was your sister's business. We bought it.
Okay, so each individual business owner owns. Okay, so the business owner bought the trees.
Right.
Okay, and then who owns the sidewalks?
The state does.
And so the state owns the
The
sidewalk.
state's right of way is almost face of business to face of business.
Okay.
Like I said, your awning over your door is actually in our right of way.
But
So we could
you're
remove
not
that.
gonna take those sidewalks to the road. When you say there's no right of way purchases, those sidewalks, the width will still stay there. That's not gonna be taken to part of the road.
No, the sidewalks are gonna be replaced as well and
But there's still
widened
gonna be sidewalks.
and widened.
Wider sidewalks. Okay, so when you said no right of way was gonna be needed, I wanted to make sure that wasn't included as part of the road. Sidewalks.
The sidewalks are gonna be, are part of the roadway project. We're gonna let it all together. And we're gonna replace the sidewalks, right, we're gonna, the road footprint is basically gonna say what it is, and the sidewalk footprint is gonna be like.
Just wanted to make sure the nomenclature.
Right.
But to verify her question, even though the businesses may have purchased the trees, since they're in your right of way, the state actually owns the trees.
That's right. Yeah, from my understanding, I can do nothing to the tree. I can't go take the tree out on my own.
No, if the tree dies, the station will replace it.
I understand that the trees were donated. There's nothing that are there trees there originally. They took them out and did something, and they asked us to use at that time if we would buy the trees we bought. Each trees is that was in the pots. That were in the pots. They later put in the ground.
The-
So they were in the, okay. They were actually trees there originally, so we had these trees one time.
The source of the trees, Bruce Hillegeist with the chamber, we office together, and I asked him if he knew, obviously he's Mr. Tomball, he kind of knows everything. I asked him where those trees came from, and he said that the Chamber of Commerce, previous, when it was Diane Holland as the president, the Chamber of Commerce had donated trees in pots, and their intent was to try and get them all the way down. They got planted, and obviously those planters aren't sufficient to help those trees grow to the best of their ability, but that's where, according to Bruce, the history of the trees came from.
Well, they may have bought some of them if the businesses refused to buy.
Yeah.
And as far as the trees go, real quick too, TxDOT and the arborist told me, and you can correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, they actually now have a box that they put down for the trees to reside in.
So let me explain. So it's a suspended pavement system. What that means is right now your sidewalk sits on dirt. Okay. What we would do, since utilities and everything else be replaced in this project, the sidewalk, while that's excavated, we would put in, it's not a box, it's more like columns of, I hate to use the word box, it's not a box. But, imagine the chairs you're sitting on, it's kind of like that, okay? So that actually will hold up the sidewalk. We put in proper soil underneath your seat where the legs of your chair are, so the roots have a safe place to grow without upheaving the sidewalk. We would also install root barriers in front of the buildings or any other special things so the roots don't actually grow into foundations, or if there's some type of inlet or storm sewer or sanitary sewer, whatever it is. So several people said it correctly earlier. If we replace the sidewalks, replace the utilities and everything in that space, we'll go back and make sure the trees and everything that supports the trees get done correctly, so the trees can grow the best they can without causing problems.
The same tree.
I think with that space, when the utilities are there, I don't think we could tree spade anything in. I think probably the largest size that would be good would be like a 100-gallon container, which is like a 6-inch caliper, 6-inch diameter, 5 or 6 inch diameter tree.
Yeah. You have what kind?
I'm gonna let the city provide the design to us. We'll put in as many trees as the city wants to put in, and we'll use appropriate species that are available in the nursery and that work on the
Right there, go ahead.
Okay, hello, everybody, and I'm really glad that you're here, and as you've heard, a lot of people say that's the reason we're having this meeting, is because at the last council meeting, when it did come up about medians, but we gotta go forward in order so we know what we're talking about, and we know that we can get in those discussions, and so I really appreciate you coming, and I just wanted to say that quickly. After our last meeting, I got on the phone with the city manager and said, David, let's have a meeting. We met with a couple of the property owners and said, okay, what can we do? And let's expand this. Let's get as many businesses in, let's get the residents, let's get people who just love Tomball to find out what it is that y'all want. So again, I wanted to thank you for coming to the meeting.
I got one comment, question. So on the sidewalks, I've been on the sidewalks before and tried to do, I like the environment, I like the sidewalks. But it's not real safe. The traffic going by, you try to sit there and talk on the phone, you really can't do it. It's uncomfortable with some of the drivers that are flying through there. So I was just kind of curious, and don't expect an answer, but Green Dome, might be Aggie, College Station, they got a concrete barrier that's stopped. You cannot get a car across it to where these people are. So I don't know if that's been considered, released along these businesses along the whole body. So one just your question, I don't expect an answer.
Say, ask your question again.
If I'm gonna be sitting in that sidewalk, drinking a cup of coffee, and a car flying by the sit curb, between me and those cars, I really can't talk, can't have a conversation with somebody across the table. It's certain times of the day. So to me, it's not very safe. Yeah, the sidewalks need to be ripped up and replaced. But even after that's done and these things are cleaned up and traffic does move quicker through, that's gonna aggravate the situation. And Tomball is growing, there's gonna be more traffic through here. I hate to have this project go in 5 or 10 years from now, you don't wanna be on the sidewalk. Everybody's on the alley because there's less traffic. Now the buildings all have to kind of turn around in front of the alley because it's just a better place to walk. All right, so that's one comment. Another one, I've been at numerous tech stop meetings for other projects, and so there's a lot of feedback. Correct. That's what you're here for. What's the outcome of this? Are we gonna see what's the next step? I've been in the meetings where I like this idea, I put a dot on it. I like that idea, put a green dot, things I like, things I don't like. Are we having that kind of process here, or are we all gonna sit here and drive? Some people are gonna call a phone number, some people are gonna send an email, and then what?
So I'm here at the request of Tomball to talk to you about the project. It's not this isn't something that we formally did.
So maybe my question is better posed for the city.
And you're right. So when you go into a typical, you get public comment, TechDOT, we've all been to those, visiting things, and that was part of the background on the project, was that did happen.
How long ago? I'm sorry.
Back in when we did the little defenders, we did the, yes.
So is it worth it maybe to revisit that?
Well, and I guess from my standpoint, and obviously, I got my marching orders, of course, I wasn't there back then, whenever everything was adopted and we're moving forward. It changes, absolutely, that's the direction we're gonna go. So the question is it going to change? I don't think that.
Correct. For you, this is top priority for us to figure this out, communicate it, give you feedback, and communicate the negotiation we're gonna do, right? To get this done. But we hear you. I think I can probably speak to the council on that, right? We hear you.
I think it would not behoove anybody to have this meeting and walk away and say, well, we met, we got their feedback.
Correct. No, that wasn't.
That's not the I mean, I don't know why we not get drawings and options and pros and cons and basically debate those things and bring that to you guys and communicate that. We got it.
Let me ask y'all this one thing, if I may, just kind of piggyback on him. We have Goomba Corporation here tonight answering questions free of charge. They do not have a contract with the city of Tomball. They've been doing work here for going on 7, 8 years on this very project, free, gratis to us. I'm going to ask you all a question. Would you have a problem with us getting in contract with these folks to pay them for their efforts to give us what you're talking about, Jeff? Because I couldn't expect anybody, and I wouldn't expect any of y'all, if y'all were business owners in this business, to do it for free. So the question I have is, as a councilman, if we haven't put on our agenda to go ahead and allow us to execute a contract so that we can have these things brought to us for us to look at and respond to y'all. Is that something you approve of?
Well, can we have a workshop to see the suggestions that the public is invited to before it is a council agenda item that we vote on?
I'm talking about just simply
I
paying
know
this man for his
Well, and-
business.
and
That's all I'm asking for.
Kyle gives that to us here, the alternatives of, with TxDOT, which you go. That yes, we can do this, you can do what you talked about on that turn, or we put in hops, or we put in turn signals, or whatever the alternatives are, to think outside the box and have 2 or 3 different suggestions with cost and if they can work. But that is what I think we need to get the feedback then to these people here, not just have it on an agenda item to vote on one of the 3.
I agree with you, but will you do my books for me for free and tell me what my options are? No, you can't do that.
I just am questioning the process once he gives us the answers after we pay.
Okay, hey, wait, guys, we do this every week at council. We get to yell at each other, so that's not the point tonight. The point is to hear from y'all, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. I guarantee nobody's gonna sign a check, blank check, and nobody's gonna sign contracts until we know what we're doing. But as Derek was saying, we have to be able to pay them to look at the alternatives.
I just don't think we take a vote before we ask.
But we need to know what it's gonna be, so we can ask people.
So just, and I think that will solve kind of the thing, not perfectly, but we can definitely put on an hourly contract to get those exhibits for those options. To do those, and that way we don't wanna do that.
Yeah, this should not be complicated. This is like, there is so much off the shelf that's been done all across the planet. You know, nobody has to invent anything brand new. There's plenty of transportation coolness happening all over the US. It can happen right here, right off the shelf. You can Google it.
We're talking conceptual.
Yes, it works great, plenty of studies. Nobody's been hurt, but definitely not, sir, excuse me, but definitely, you said something that was very interesting. Is that, and I've seen this happen before, it's creating this thoroughfare where it just becomes a speed trap, and everybody just wants to get through it. Well, no one's gonna stop, and then it curves around and it's all alleys and so on and so forth. So we have a tremendous opportunity, excuse me.
Let me make a comment about TxDOT doing this for free and this kind of stuff and everything. They're paid for, TxDOT is paid by our tax dollars from the state.
Sir, he's not
It's
with
their
TxDOT.
job to do that kind of stuff.
Sir, he's not with TxDOT.
Let me finish talking. I'll let you talk, let me talk. I've spent 25 years working with municipalities in the water wastewater industry. And we do, like they say, they come to us as a supplier, we give them all these bids and everything. And within my business, we call that practice bidding, because we didn't get paid to make that bid. We provided that information in hopes that maybe somewhere down the line, we can get that job and everything. We call that practice bidding. It's their job to work with these states with our roads and that kind of stuff. I do have to commend you on, you said you worked on 1960. And for me personally, I don't have an accessibility problem on 1960. I don't have a problem getting into the businesses on 1960. Why? Because they changed 1960, and I avoid that cotton picking road like the plague, and I'm taking my business to somewhere else.
I just want to make just a kind of an all-encompassing. So as a result of these meetings, which I have learned a lot, and I appreciate it here, but as a result of these meetings, how many times, or what is the percentage of times where TxDOT actually modifies a proposal to accommodate the local community? Just, I know you don't have a number, but just in general, does it happen often, sometimes, seldom, a lot?
So I'll tell you, it happens with every project. Every project, it's some type of modification as a result of the public input. Every project, you know, we have to respond to the local community, and your opinion, your time here is very valuable to us. And I don't charge you, you just pay my salary, I don't charge you. Kyle, on the other hand, works for a private engineering firm. And is doing this work for Tomball. He's not working for us. And he's not, I mean, his firm is a contractor to us on other projects, but not this project. I'm a state employee, and therefore I am paid by your tax dollars, so thank you very much. I hope I'm representing this well and serving you. Kyle, on the other hand, is beholden to the owner of his company. And that's a private company that's just trying to make a living too. Every single project we do involves public involvement, and we take that public input and we make changes to our design. We create our design. We try to communicate to you through our public involvement process, you know, what our goals are for the corridors, you know, and then we take your input as resident experts that use that corridor every single day. And we ask you to talk about your needs for that corridor, and we try to strike the balance between the needs of the traveling public and the needs of the land adjacent to the roadway. And it's tough, and as I said during my presentation earlier, these types of treatments are notoriously unpopular. You know, and we have made a lot of changes. All those implementation areas that I talked about, we've already done it. We have absolutely made changes to every one of the designs as we've gone through the process. And so your time here is not wasted. You know,
can I mention?
It's very valuable.
Before you finish, can I mention, that's one of the reasons why council really wanted to have the control over the design contract. Typically, or in a lot of cases, TxDOT would be the one that takes the design component. That gives us control over how the road looks, how it functions as far as the design. So part of this is really just to give you guys an update on what this project is, but to move us forward to that next phase, it's really going to be a matter of a series of public meetings. Just like you said, those where you go and you stick. We did that back in 2007, 2008, but it's time to revisit that because there's been a lot of changes. You're right, we do have alternate thoroughfares now. Grand Parkway was a huge change for us. Medical Complex, Brown Road, all of those things were kind of this comprehensive effort to help get us to this point. We have a huge opportunity here. I mean, $30 million project, drainage, utilities, sidewalks. We've got some challenges that we've got to work through, absolutely. But we have got an opportunity to transform this corridor. What I'd ask you to do is give us an opportunity to go back, revisit some of the things that we need to look at and update, and come back in a series of public meetings so that we come to an understanding of something that is going to function well for all of you, something that's going to function for those passing through, and make our town even more special. And that's why we're all here. We love this community. We want to see it grow and prosper, and we have an opportunity to do that. There's going to be growing pains and there's going to be some challenges, but if we can work through that together, I think at the end of the day, you're going to see a corridor that you're going to be proud of, and that you're going to be, you know, going, oh, we could have done this 10 years ago. I really think you're going to see a huge improvement along that corridor.
So can we talk about what would the speed limit, like what is it now, and what will it be when this is over?
Well, the speed limit right now, at least through the section, you know, downtown Main Street is 30 miles an hour. I would assume that it would stay 30 miles an hour.
They have a lot of like children that shop with their parents along Main Street too, and they run fast. So slow it down. But I know you're trying to speed it through.
I'm not trying to speed them through. I want vehicles that want to go through to be able to get through efficiently. But I also want to, like I started out saying, I also want the people that want to be there and shop there and work there, I want them to be able to get out and from a pedestrian standpoint and an access standpoint to business, I want them to be able to move about freely as well. You know, and so we're trying to achieve two objectives here. One is the mobility of this corridor that's 32 miles and connects to interstates. And the other is this downtown that has these needs of these businesses and these, you know, that needs pedestrians to walk into their businesses and to walk back and forth through them. And so that is the objective that we're trying to do. We want some throughput, but mainly we want people that are coming there to be able to get out of their vehicle and walk and traverse and patronize safely and in a way that feels not only it feels safe, it is safe, but it's also comfortable and it's inviting. The experience is there. They feel that experience. That's why we did the Livable Center study, and that's what we heard from the businesses at the time. They wanted that sense of place, that old town Tomball historic charm. They wanted people to feel invited to come and to feel comfortable moving about and patronizing and, you know, dining and doing these other things. And so some of the treatments that you see here are to accommodate that. In fact, most of the treatments that you've seen here are to accommodate that part of the project.
I just want to say, I also have property in Galveston, so I am on the seawall all the time. They have a whole lot more traffic than Tomball does. They do not have a median, they have hawks.
Right.
The pedestrian hawks. So in that scope of it all, if what you're trying to say for Tomball, it, you know, would work, why don't you do it in Galveston? Because it doesn't work. It kills those small businesses that you can't turn into any longer, that you can't turn down onto any longer. So the hawks are much, I think, are a lot more inviting to pedestrians because I can cross at Walmart, or I can cross it down. Myself personally, I don't jaywalk, I walk down to Cherokee and I come around. I live on Foster, which is 3 blocks off of the main road. So I walked all the way from my house to the German Fest because I don't park. What's the point? I'm gonna walk. That is a much better idea than these meetings that people are gonna stand in and I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I hear you.
And I live here, in Old Tomball.
So I just want to say that anyone who knows Doris Spears, she's not going to be happy with me, but we just added an agenda item on Monday night's meeting for council to give direction to city staff on what we want to do in the next step. Okay?
All right.
Great.
Next week.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, I'm of a different opinion. I think the city needs some better sidewalks and walkability. You can't walk down the sidewalk and without watching every step you take because you're going to trip and fall in your face. I think it's going to bring more business to the city. I think it's because of all the other areas that you've enhanced to get parking and people are going to park instead of wanting to turn around in the middle of Main Street and make a left, which is ridiculous to go to a business. I'm going to park somewhere else where you have public parking. But my question is, so you've done these enhancements and you did them after the plan was already set. And what this gentleman had said about where the railroad crossing is and on Elm, North Elm, there's some really great parking for events. I don't see a lot of access to get to that parking here on the plan. I was wondering, is that because the parking was done after the plan, the enhancement of the parking or not?
It was when the Livable Centers plan was done, the parking master plan that's in there identified several potential areas. Potential meaning there was either potentially, current development there, or it was just a vacant lot. So it looked at several areas along that railroad track was one of them. I think if you look back at the Livable Centers study and the access management study, it did show opening into that area. And so I think that's something that we all need to revisit, especially with that intersection. There has been, comments, I think, from different, entities saying, hey, if you extend that median up and you avoid that, you've got the railroad crossing, makes a whole lot of sense. The fluidity of that for all of us, I agree. It's it's problematic. So areas like that, I think we definitely need to look at the Hawk idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. So to me, the next step would be for us to kind of look back at some of the suggestions, reevaluate that, and then be able to come in a public meeting with some options.
Great. And thank you for being so nice and being here tonight to explain this to us. You've taken a lot of it. I don't think that's
Meeting, I love these kind of meetings. I'm energized by them. Everyone needs to know I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight because my mind's gonna be churning. I love these meetings. So
I'm gonna say, I was against the tree being cut down.
I understand why they need to go now. So, you know, I accept that that needs to happen. I love our trees. It's part of what makes Tomball beautiful. I think 6-inch trees are unacceptable. I think they need to be a little bit bigger because what the renditions that you're showing us, you're not going to see those for 20 years. That, I mean,
6-inch tree, 12-inch trees can be supplied without a spade, no problem. We do it every day, so.
Our trees,
The trees that are planted.
So, and those are definitely design details that we can look at, what the options are at the time. Thank you for your comments. The truth is, when we come out to these public meetings, we know that we're not gonna get everybody to agree. What we hope you leave here with is a better understanding of how wide we're going to make these improvements, a commitment to continue working with us. Talk about what we are, what you do, and, just show that we have your best interest at heart. We're interested in your businesses. Oh, sorry. I talked to my So thank you all so much for being
Before y'all leave, just let you know, on the city's website, before y'all leave, I wanted to let you know, on the city's website, under the community development department, there is a FM 2920 webpage that's been set up. They're gonna compile all the questions and the meeting notes. That will all be added on there. So that will be the main resource for this project as far as local connection.